Good Thursday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. A little later in the show, Mac Robinson will join us. We will talk plenty about the Browns getting ready for that first divisional game Sunday, 1 o'clock, First Energy Stadium, where they will face the Pittsburgh Steelers. Browns practiced today. Some guys did not practice. J.C. Tretter, Richard LeCount not practicing. Jadeveon Clowney, Denzel Ward riding the bikes out in Berea, and Donovan Peoples-Jones also on the side. Baker Mayfield did, in fact, practice, put shoulder pads on, and was out throwing, and by all reports looked pretty good throwing the football. Here he finds Donovan Peoples-Jones. Of course, T.J. Watt not chasing him here as he goes through this, and throwing against, nobody is a lot easier. Let's welcome in Doug Lesmerises. So, Doug, you see Baker Mayfield playing. You see him practicing. What are your thoughts just about him? He seems very, very intent on going out and playing against the Steelers.
Hopeful, right? And why would he be going through this if it wasn't real for Sunday? I think they've probably reached an understanding with the shoulder, at least as it is now. Because I just think taking that Thursday night off was just obviously so the right decision for everybody involved. And I would imagine they have a pretty good handle on a plan now. Now, that plan, I would imagine, is in place until it pops out again. He takes a hit, something else happens. But right now, I would bet they have a pretty good handle of how this works, which means, all right, we practice on Thursday, we're building up, we're getting ready, and then I don't know what would hold him back at this point from playing on Sunday, and then we'll have to see, what changes with Kevin Stefanski's play calling, what changes with the offense, as I do think you would then enter a world where you are now playing Baker Mayfield while he has an injured shoulder that's in a harness, and I don't think you can pretend that's the same as playing a healthy Baker Mayfield. And I think you need to game plan and scheme with that in mind, and I will be very curious to see what that looks like if he is the guy on Sunday.
Yeah, and indications, signs are pointing to that. Alex Van Pelt, offensive coordinator, talked about Baker, what they have seen from him at practice, and kind of what the plan is going forward.
I think he's okay. Seems to be good in meetings. Practiced yesterday a good amount and looked good.
Looked good yesterday?
Yeah.
So you think he's practicing today?
I think he'll go today, for sure. And then we'll determine later in the week, how he's feeling. Obviously, it's up to the doctors and medical staff to determine whether he's ready to go or not.
So as far as last Tuesday, 2 days before the Broncos game, the response obviously the day after wasn't good. Has the shoulder responded better as far as you know?
I think so. I mean, you have to ask Baker, obviously, but
we don't get to talk to him today, so
no? Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I think he's feeling okay right now. Just whether or not it's healed up enough for this week or not.
And Doug, that was obviously before practice. We showed you he was out in practice. It's interesting. He was the only player in pads. That is presumably because he has a new harness with a different injury. You kind of strap it in and try to get it to go. But again, they're not going to know until he goes and works out. Probably pregame. You're pushing it that far down the line in all likelihood. But as you said, there's probably a plan, but that plan can't really go into action right away.
Yeah, this is management time, right? That it's not going to heal, right, until there's surgery, and so you want to try to see if he can play a football season, and then you get him back to 100% in the off season. But I admire a guy who's willing to take a shot at this, and you have to balance all involved. But the next test is when he gets hit again, right? When he falls on that shoulder or has somebody hit it hard or whatever is going to happen, because it's going to happen. And then what happens? So it feels like they've been on the same page with trying to manage this. And again, I just think it feels like at the moment things are going as well as they could be going. And then Sunday is just absolutely going to be a huge test. And you cross your fingers and hold your breath a little bit, but I think for a Thursday, they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, but we'll see. A couple days ahead. The thing is, other guys are getting healthier and healthier. One of the guys back on the field that means a lot, and maybe we've underestimated how much Jarvis Landry means to this offense. Landry played Thursday, was less than 100%. He talked about kind of fighting through the injuries that he's fighting through, as well as what Baker Mayfield's fighting through.
We all have injuries that we go through and have to play through. When the season starts, nobody's actually ever still 100%. So, but again, like I said, he's handling it like a pro, and then obviously, he's not putting himself selfishly in front of the team. I think he's, like I said, going day by day, seeing the things that he can do. Coming out here on the practice field, doing the things in the training room to be able to see if he can really give it a go and just go from there. He's been fighting. He's been fighting to get back, trying to do everything possible, literally, to get back. And, it's good to see him back out here on the practice field, moving around, throwing balls around, and, still taking it day by day. Obviously, it's still an ongoing process, and getting him feeling better, getting a lot of us feeling better. So, but he's handling it the right way, like a pro.
And Doug, there were a couple of plays Thursday night when Jarvis came off the field that you were kind of wondering, was he going to be back out there? There were 2 or 3 where I remember seeing him on the sidelines where it looked like he could barely put weight on it. And then next series, he's back there lining up. I think, at least I kind of underestimated just how valuable it is to have him underneath running routes, because he is, be it Baker Mayfield or Case Keenum's, kind of go-to underneath.
He's almost like a third arm for Baker, right? It's like you've got your throwing arm. He has the left shoulder arm that's not, and then there's Jarvis. Like, he's almost an appendage. He's part of Baker Mayfield. And I do think, the games before all the shoulder stuff really came into focus, but we knew the shoulder hurts a little bit, but he maybe wasn't looking like himself. You had to be throwing Jarvis into that conversation. Now, listen, you can't be a quarterback where it's like, oh, my receiver got hurt, now I can't play anymore. So you have to deal with the guys you have out there. But I do think that's what he is for this team. And always in sports, one of the best ways to appreciate a guy is to have him not be there. And it's like, oh, yeah, that guy actually is really important. So I think we've all, if we didn't know it, we were reminded about it with Jarvis Landry. And that's the thing, Dave, like with Baker's not going to be 100%, but you get Jarvis back, you get the tackles back, you get Nick Chubb back. I think we almost a little bit forget what this offense is like, because there have been so many guys in and out. You didn't have Odell early, then you didn't have Jarvis, then you didn't have Nick Chubb, then you didn't have Jed Wills and Jack Conklin. And the closer they get back to that, that's a lot of help for Baker Mayfield. And so they can't magically heal his shoulder, but they can add to the stuff around him that's going to make everything just a little bit easier. And clearly Jarvis is at the top of that list on who on this team makes life easier for the quarterback.
I tell you, the other thing that you kind of touched on there, I really appreciate the job Jedrick Wills did, not having him and Jack Conklin out there a couple of times. That was a noticeable difference on the line with what were your 4th and 5th tackles, because Chris Hubbard has been out too. Joe Woods, defensive coordinator, has taken a lot of heat early in this season. He talked a little bit about kind of simplifying the playbook during that mini bye that the Browns went through.
I would say maybe this reorder may be the cause. And you guys, have asked me multiple times, just with all the guys we have, how much do you keep putting in? And that's what happens. It's like, how much can you put in and how much is too much? And I kind of flirted with that line a little bit. And then when you make 1 or 2 mistakes, was it worth it to do it? So we really looked at that, and we're really going to try to keep a tight menu, but maybe pick more from certain packages game to game instead of trying to do a little bit of all of them.
Is that what contributed to some of those busted coverages?
Yeah, well, you come out in practice and you rep some of those pressures to certain looks, and you get in the game and it's something you didn't rep it against, and if somebody's off, just a drop or their gap, and now you get hit with a play. So just very conscious of that, and just want to make sure I do a good job preparing them, but at the same time, don't give them too much.
That makes a little bit more sense than what we were thinking it might have been earlier. So let's hope that this mini bye and them kind of adjusting it has the same effect last year as the bye did with the offense.
With the guys they have on this defense now, it's the NFL. You can't just line up in obvious stuff every snap and do it. But I do think they can be in a place where they can really try to pin getting pressure on Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. Don't over blitz. Keep guys in space to make plays on short passes and in the run game. And let's make sure we don't get beat over the top. I do think, sometimes when you're not talented, you've got to hide it, man. Why do you think I shout and throw my arms around? It's like I'm trying to fake it till I make it. So that's not what the Browns are. They've got real guys. Now, again, JOK, talking about guys that you realize how good they are when you miss them. By the time JOK is back, I think that's where we'll be with him and how valuable he is to this defense. But these are 11 real dudes that they put out there most of the time. So I do think you can be more simple than maybe the Browns could have been in the past, or maybe than some other teams can be. So I think Joe Woods is making a smart admission and sounds like adjustment here. Let's not, you don't have to blitz your safeties too much and blitz your linebackers, and all of a sudden now this guy's covered. Just let your back seven play, let your front four get after the quarterback, and I think you have a shot.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will talk a little bit about Nick Chubb and D'Ernest Johnson, the 1-2 punch that the Browns will have in the backfield against the Steelers. We'll also hear from Mike Tomlin, Steelers head coach, about the atmosphere he expects at First Energy Stadium. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Steelers. Nick Chubb expected to be back in the backfield. As we mentioned, Jack Conklin expected to play, so 5 offensive line would be there. Also, D'Ernest Johnson, who stepped in and did a really nice job as the feature back against the Broncos, is expected to get carries. He's expected to be, the 1A behind Nick Chubb. Kevin Stefanski and Nick Chubb talked about D'Ernest Johnson and just his role and how happy they are for Johnson.
No, I think they're all so different. I really think they're all so different. I think D'Ernest, like I said previously, and we all saw it in that game, when he's had his opportunities, he's come through. He's a very, very accountable football player.
What's different about him? But like, if you had to compare D'Ernest to Kareem, what makes them stand out and separate?
It's just those rushing styles on each of those guys is just it's a little bit different. I think Kareem's a great football player. He's a great slashing football player. Can catch it, can run it. D'Ernest, in his own right, is very productive. He runs behind his pads, has great forward lean, but just different styles.
It's a story. I mean, he 3 years ago, he was fishing on the boat, trying to find some money and find some work, and now he's here on the Browns, and he had a great game. It's a story where he's come from, trusting the process, never giving up. I mean, he's just a lovable guy too. I mean, he's one of my best friends on the team, and it was fun watching him play.
And Doug Lesmerises, the fact that they have a guy like D'Ernest Johnson who you can keep Nick Chubb fresh with, they're going to keep. It allows them to keep the pressure on a defense in the run game.
I'm nervous because I think I'm the world's only D'Ernest Johnson party pooper. It's an unbelievable story. It's an unbelievable story. I think we might be I think we're all pushing the envelope a little bit. He had a great game, and when you can rely on a third string guy to carry the load as a starter in a must-win game, that is an unbelievable ask, and he came through in an unbelievable way. Nobody would try to take anything away from what D'Ernest Johnson did against the Broncos. It's a short week. Everybody else has been playing all year. They're worn down. You're trying to game plan very quickly. This offensive line is awesome. And you put in a guy who's got a lot of juice, a lot of energy, who is fresh, who has not been worn down by the season because he hasn't been playing that much. And he absolutely takes advantage of the situation. We know Nick Chubb is maybe not going to be 100% yet when he gets back to the Steelers. I mean, listen, Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is Kareem Hunt for a reason. D'Ernest Johnson's not as good as them. So I'm not expecting to see the same thing from D'Ernest Johnson when, it's a normal week. The Steelers are going to prep for him now. The Steelers are a better defense than the Broncos. The Broncos are not a very good football team. So the story of D'Ernest Johnson is undeniable. Like the football analysis of what he's going to do for the Browns going forward while Kareem Hunt is out, I think we might be expecting a little bit too much. Is that too? Nobody wants to hear that, right? Cut that part out.
No.
Nobody wants to hear that, but we also can't pretend that the third string guy is as good as the first and second string guy, because if he was as good, he'd be first or second string.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievable performance. I think it might be the mountaintop, though.
We'll see. I mean, the other time that he got the chance against the Cowboys was a full week, and he did well. So when he's been given the opportunity, now I'm not saying he's going to get 15 or 18 carries. I think he's going to get 6 to 10 carries, and I think he'll do fine. Now, the thing I will say is when he scored the touchdown and he was asked about the touchdown celebration, he said he just kind of screamed because he didn't have anything planned. We need to see him get in the end zone again, Doug, because he's been able to think about it, and here's what he had to say about a touchdown celebration coming up.
I do. I just talked to somebody recently. Hopefully, I can get the team together and just toss them the ball, and I can just act like I'm really in a fish or something. So hopefully there'll be something dope. Hopefully I can get the guys to do that. That'll be something nice.
Doug, if he scores a touchdown, we are going to find him reeling in the fish from his time on the fishing boat.
I take back all the stuff I said before. Is he not like the most likable person on the planet? For real? I hope there are teammates who are practicing, how like a fish is like flopping around like this? Like who can be, like Baker, if Baker can slide in and take the photo for Rashard Higgins, he should be flopping on the deck, like on the end of D'Ernest's fishing line.
Maybe one of the linemen. We want him to catch a big one. So maybe we get. Maybe.
I've hooked at Jedrick Wills.
There you go.
Oh, it's a big one.
There you go. See? Stick with me. We'll figure this out. All right. Baker Mayfield was asked Wednesday, media availability, about his confidence if he begins the game, if he can get through the entire game. Here's Baker Mayfield on Wednesday when he talked to the media.
I'm completely confident in that. That's if you go out there, you're scared, you're timid. That's how you really get hurt, seriously. And so I can't do that. So like I said, trying to get the strength back and be able to go as close to 100% as possible. And if that's not the case, then we trust the guys we have out there. You guys saw that we came out with a win with kind of a manufactured team, and Case did a great job.
And that's kind of getting back to what you had talked about a little bit earlier. There's a plan in place, and it seems like everybody is pretty much on the same page with it.
Yeah, no, I think Baker's got the exact right view of this. No more blocking, right? No more reverses where the quarterback winds up in a situation where he's ready to throw a block on a linebacker or safety. Just tell him, if you're going to run a reverse, tell Baker to run off the field. You cannot put him in that situation anymore. It's crazy. It doesn't mean you can't run a reverse, but you're going to be down a blocker because Baker Mayfield is not going to block on a reverse anymore. And then I do wonder, some of the play action rollout boots right, that he's so good at, that Kevin Stefanski likes to get him out in space a little bit. I mean, that actually might be an effective way to get him out of the pocket, because sometimes you want to boot the right way and the defense isn't expecting it. You wind up out there all by yourself and you can make a play. But, he's going. Ben Roethlisberger is a guy who gets rid of the ball really quickly. Baker's more like in the middle of the pack, or sometimes is even lower, of guys like who hold the ball a little longer. I'll be very curious how quickly he gets rid of the ball. And we had this discussion on our Gotta Watch the Tape podcast this week. You can get rid of the ball quickly as a quarterback out of fear, right? Out of hot potato kind of stuff. Or you can get rid of the ball quickly out of decisiveness, of diagnosing the defense. It's a great play call. Get it out of your hand, get it to your guys, move the team down the field. I think Baker and Kevin Stefanski can find a way for him to be that style of quarterback. He probably he's not going to be able to hold the ball like he's done at times this year, looking for a big play. But run the offense, and then if it's not there, get it out of bounds. Like, don't hold the ball and risk pressure getting to you. And I do think there's a version of that can keep this offense operating at a very high level while lessening the chances of Baker Mayfield hurting that shoulder even more.
Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will continue to talk about quarterbacking in the Kevin Stefanski system, some pluses and maybe some limits to it. We'll also hear from Mike Tomlin about the atmosphere he expects to find over at First Energy Stadium. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Steelers Sunday over at First Energy Stadium. Doug Lesmerises, columnist from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer, and I are talking. So Kevin Stefanski's system, Doug, everybody says it's quarterback friendly. My question, and interested to see what you think of this, does it keep quarterbacks from being elite? Because Kevin Stefanski makes it, you don't turn the ball over, take care of it, so you don't take those high risk, high reward throws. He wants to minimize those. Does this system keep a quarterback from being quote unquote elite, if you will?
No, I don't think so, because I think if he had a quarterback whose skill set fit, let's wing it a little more, let's take more downfield shots, a guy who's more of a runner or whatever. You could have this system, and if Kevin Stefanski had Josh Allen or Kyler Murray or a different type of quarterback, I don't think it would be the exact same thing. I think that this does put quarterbacks in a position to be successful. We were talking about some of the bootlegs earlier, just some of that stuff that you give guys sort of throwing lanes and opportunities to do things. I would be really curious, and I hope it happens, and my guess is it does happen. Let's see what this looks like in year 6 of Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski. Let's see what this looks like in a world where they know each other. It's like they're in each other's brains, and Baker is in complete control, and you have 100% faith of him, and now you can do a little more, right? Remember, we're only in year 2 of Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield, and Baker's nursing something. So we are still, last year, the first half of last year was them figuring each other out. So we got half a year of kind of like what this might look like, and Baker's numbers in terms of the second half last year, I mean, he's a top 5, top 7, top 10 quarterback. Now he's not himself already again this year. So we have not seen a lot of maximum Baker, maximum Stefanski. So I think we have to keep that in mind. It is quarterback friendly, but I don't think it's quarterback limiting. I just think we're still at a stage where, with the realities of these 2 years, there are things that you don't want to try, but let's give it more time and better health for everybody, and I think it'll open up.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion point, because whenever you hear the Stefanski or Shanahan system, there's always, well, this guy looked good in it, and he's an okay quarterback, and you never hear, boy, this guy was extremely elite in this. So it's just a very interesting thought to consider. Mike Tomlin will bring the Steelers into First Energy Stadium, a game that both teams desperately need. First AFC North game, Browns 4-3, Steelers 3-3. This is what Mike Tomlin had to say about the atmosphere that awaits the Steelers Sunday at First Energy Stadium.
The atmosphere is something that has our attention. You know, we realize we're going into an AFC road game, AFC North road game. We expect it to be hostile, Halloween and so forth. But I think as competitors, man, that fires us up. But forget being fired up, man. We got to be duly prepared. And so we're preparing with an edge, understanding all the things that I mentioned and understanding the significance of this game that's waiting on us at the end of the week. But, boy, isn't that what we signed up for? Significant games, big-time competition, divisional play. It's a great way to come off a bye week.
And that's an important – I know you love hearing Mike Tomlin talk. It is important to note, Steelers had a bye last week, so they had time to rest up and get a little bit healthier.
I just love the phrase Halloween and so forth. Listen, I swear, if I was starting an NFL team, I might hire Mike Tomlin first. I think Mike Tomlin is incredible. He had the kind of the rant this week. If they were asking about the USC job, he was like, why would I go coach in college? I coach the best players in the world. I have always thought he would be an unbelievable college coach. That guy absolutely is about culture. He would connect with players. I think he could win national titles in college if he ever wanted to do it. So I love everything about Mike Tomlin. I'm just imagining, like, you know, if he went, you know, people dressed as Frankenstein, you know, people dressed up as SpongeBob SquarePants, eating mini Snickers, you know, Halloween and so forth. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? It's the AFC North, and it might be Big Ben's last game in Cleveland. I mean, there's a lot at stake here. You know, Dracula's, you know, people dressed as nurses, you know, people, you know, dressed up as, you know, the Powderpuff Girls, whatever you call them, you know, and so forth.
You're going to have people with dog masks on. You're going to have people with pumpkin heads on. So, you know, it's Halloween. That, you know,
it is
Halloween and so forth. Absolutely. All right, this one had my head, me scratching my head a little bit. Let's see your reaction to it. Bleacher Report went through all the teams and listed them as buyers or sellers coming up trade deadline. It lists the Browns as sellers, and it says, sorry, Browns fan, probably isn't the year Cleveland finally reaches the Super Bowl. 4-3, they've beaten teams they're supposed to, lost to the Cardinals, Chargers, inconsistent Chiefs, but injury threatens to derail the season. It mentions Hunt, Owusu-Koramoah, and Baker. And then you see, unless Dr. Mayfield has the wherewithal to adequately protect himself, he will not return. And that's by CBS Sports' Jason Lockenfora. Well, so far they must feel that he is going to be able to protect himself, because it certainly sounds like all signs are pointing to him playing. But do you buy the notion that the Browns would be sellers? I just don't see that.
I mean, we love trade deadline talk in the NFL, and then, like, very little happens, right? I mean, there's a lot of wasted breath here. I wish there were more trades. I think there should be more trades. I think there are opportunities. When you said Bleacher Report, I thought you were going to be like, Bleacher Report compared every NFL team to a Halloween candy, and the Browns are Twix. You know, I was like, oh, Bleacher Report, what do they have to say? Jason Lockenfora is a good reporter for CBS Sports, but also, it's like he said, like, it sounds like Baker's going to play, so I don't know what we're supposed to think of that. I don't what are they going to sell? I just don't know. Like, the Patriots traded Stephon Gilmore for like a 6th round pick, right? Because Belichick was like, I'm tired of that guy. So I know people have said, like, trade Odell or whatever. It's like, well, what? I understand it's not fitting perfectly yet again, but like, why? Like, why would they sell? They want to stockpile 5th-round picks? Like, what is the point? They're fine on the cap. They'll figure it out. I don't know. People thought they were going to make the Super Bowl this year. What are they selling? I would try to get a 3rd tackle. Like, I would try to get somebody like Chris Hubbard so that if something happens again with Wills or Conklin, you don't end up right away in Hance Hudson land. I think that would be a great buy for the Browns. Trade a 4th-round pick for somebody's 3rd tackle that's on the last year of his deal. Like, I'm very interested in something like that. But I just don't know. What are they going to sell? Seriously, what are they going to sell? What would they sell? What are they going to get? Why would you sell?
I got nothing. You're right. A 5th or 6th-round pick. I mean, don't get me wrong. Andrew Berry does fine with them. You get Demetric Felton. You get hits in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round, but you don't need a bunch of them. He's doing just fine with what he has. All right. Doug Lesmerises and I are going to step aside and take a quick timeout on the other side of the break. We turn our attention more towards the Browns and Steelers game coming up Sunday over at First Energy Stadium. We'll hear from Jarvis Landry on if the Browns can accomplish what they want to do still as they sit 4-3 today. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
We continue talking Browns as they get ready to face the Pittsburgh Steelers over at First Energy Stadium. Browns' goals were lofty, win the AFC North and challenge for the Super Bowl. So Jarvis Landry today asked if the Browns can still accomplish everything they set out to, even though they're 4-3 right now.
Yeah, damn sure. Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, I think we still have everything right here in front of us. Big division game this week that is important for us. Obviously, our division is playing really well. So this is a must-win, feels like,
No fact.
Yeah, I mean, all division games, really, and it's always been that mindset. But obviously, again, this division has kind of been, carried by the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think for the first time in a long time, as I can remember, it's pretty even, So for us, again, division games is always important, but it makes it that much more important.
So, Doug, the Ravens and Bengals are 5-2. Browns are 4-3. Steelers are 3-3. Browns still all 6 of their divisional games in front of them. So I get Jarvis's answer with, yeah, if they go and take care of business in the division, they will be where they want to be.
So I picked the Browns to go 13-4, and I am burying that prediction because that was the defense is so much better. Everything works on offense. That's like an everything goes well prediction. So this is now a grind, right? They've had enough injuries, Baker's situation, still maybe some lingering questions on defense. It's grinded out time. This is not fanciful 13-4 butterflies in the field kind of thing. But it is absolutely right there in front of them. When they were 3-3, I thought they had to go 4-1 in their next 5 games to get to 7-4 before you get to the Baltimore double dip wrapped around the bye. And so they got the first win in that. So they have to win 3 of their next 4 games, in my mind. And they absolutely can do that. And if that gets them to 7-4, then you're in a spot where you can split down the stretch and get to 10-7, and 10-7 gets you in. And this year in the AFC, you just got to get in. Whatever, home field, there's too much goofy stuff going now. It's not like the Browns are thinking about home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs. Get in. Because the great thing for the Browns that has happened is that the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs anymore. So it's always like, well, there's the Chiefs, and then there's the pack. Now it's all a pack. And they absolutely are in that pack. Cincinnati's good. Baltimore's good. Buffalo's good, right? There's a lot of good teams. Chargers are good. But the Browns, when they're healthy, can be in there. So Barry 13-4, anybody who was like me and thought it was all going to be perfect, absolutely 10-7, 11-6 is right there. And if you do that, you give yourself a shot. It's not a must-win this week. It's not. So it's like, oh, they're 4-4. Is the season over? No, it's not over. They're not in must-win territory yet. But they've got to string together some wins while they have beatable opponents. And I think they can, and I think they will.
Okay, so Pro Football Focus, biggest storyline. Both teams looking to keep pace in the AFC North. And here's the percentage, according to Pro Football Focus, to make the playoffs and to win the division. You see, Bengals are the favorite to win the division, and that's probably because they beat the Ravens. You see, Ravens still more likely to make the playoffs. Browns above 50% to make the playoffs, 19% to win the division. All those they're interesting. The AFC North, I thought it was going to be good. The Bengals' young talent has arrived a little bit quicker than I thought it would, and their defense is a little bit better than I thought it would be. The Bengals are a good team.
No, yeah, I mean that's like I can remember 3 years ago or something, and looking at this division as the Browns were starting to come up. And you thought, well, Andy Dalton's getting old. Joe Flacco's getting old. Ben Roethlisberger's getting old. Right as the Browns are going to start crescendoing here, it's possible that the other guys it's like, nope, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. It's like, cool, great. Thanks. That's all. Thanks. Oh, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in the AFC North for the next decade. Awesome. But it is awesome, right? It's all, I mean, it is awesome. So again, it's like, goodbye, Big Ben. Wait until, Matt Corral's the Pittsburgh quarterback next year doing crazy awesome stuff. He's the Ole Miss quarterback. So this is the world. But again, it's one of those things. I mean, I don't like math. I like stats and all the whatever, the robot algorithms that figure this stuff out. What the Bengals are one game ahead of the Browns right now. So the Bengals have a 77% chance to make the playoffs, and the Browns are at 52. The Browns need a big win. Right? I mean, they need a big win. I thought they were going to get it with the Chargers, and if they hadn't had a pass interference called on the Browns when the Chargers receiver pulled the jersey of a defensive back, the Browns might have gotten it. So I think that win is out there for them. Against Baltimore, go to Cincinnati and win. That's a big game now. Beat the Packers on Christmas Day. I still think that kind of win is out there. The Minnesota win is actually pretty darn good. I think Minnesota's pretty good, and the Browns took care of business that week. So, they're right there. There's nothing. They've got to navigate Baker's shoulder, but there's nothing else holding them back from doing anything they want to do. And by the way, the number one roadblock in the AFC is no longer a roadblock. Doesn't mean the Chiefs won't make the playoffs, but they are not the monster that they've been for the last several years. And that makes it wide open, and I think the Browns are in there as much as anybody else in this conference.
Yeah, I would agree. You just got to find a way to get the defense a little bit more dominant, and I think the potential is there. Joe Woods talked about that defense and how they have to deal with Ben Roethlisberger.
Everybody knows it. Ben does a good job. You can't fool him. He understands coverages, and he gets rid of the ball extremely quick when he knows what he's looking at. But every now and then they will just, block it up and take shots down the field. So you have to defend both. So you have to mix your coverages, pressures, and just try to give them different looks to get them just to hold the ball for a split second.
On that, though, he's so good at avoiding sacks. And
yeah.
So what do you tell your DBs about sticking to their guy?
You have to play tight coverage, and it has to be zone and man. You want to play, some split safety defense as well, single high. But I think it's the whole combination of mixing everything. But the guys, regardless of what you're in, just being ready to get tight to their coverage.
All right, so there you hear Joe Woods about dealing with Ben Roethlisberger. How do you think this plays out? What do you see this game looking like, Doug?
So Ben Roethlisberger is an elderly cyborg, and the Browns are this ragtag bunch of young guys up and coming, right? Listen, I mean, Joe is exactly right. You're not going to show Ben anything he hasn't seen 100 times before. But this is a young athletic defense. So they have to get after him. Man, this would be a good JOK game, right? Rally to the ball, all the short stuff Ben wants to hit. But I do think I see a world where the Browns get ahead, and then in the second half, Ben can't do the short stuff, get rid of the ball, diagnose, and get it out quite as much. He has to hold it a little longer because they've got to take some risks because the Browns are ahead by 2 scores maybe. And then that's where Myles Garrett gets to work. So I do think the idea, if the Browns with Chubb, with Jarvis can get a lead in the first half, you put the Pittsburgh offense in a position that they aren't comfortable in. They aren't great at running the ball. They'll throw some short stuff to Najee Harris, but as much as Joe said, sometimes they'll dial it up and take a shot down the field. They want to get it. He throws it more quickly than any quarterback in the league. They want to get it out of his hands. And if the Browns can make them not able to do that, that's to their advantage. That's how I think it goes. I think the Browns get ahead early, get Pittsburgh uncomfortable in the second half, get after them, and then extend that lead a little bit.
Yeah, I think the defense kind of comes through and creates a couple of turnovers that we've been waiting for them to. I think that kind of does what you say and gets them the lead early. Doug Lesmerises, columnist for cleveland.com as well as the Plain Dealer. Doug, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
See you, Dave.
All right, Doug Lesmerises, make sure you read them in the pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a time out. On the other side of the break, Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan joins us, and we will hear from Greg Newsome about a guy that is a veteran on the team who has helped him kind of ascend and have a great start to his NFL career. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine and too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns, getting ready to face the Steelers over at First Energy Stadium, 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Greg Newsome will be one of the starting cornerbacks for the Browns. The rookie has been very good in this his first season in the NFL, and he credits it to part of that success, at least, to one of the veterans that the Browns signed, Troy Hill.
Yeah, I think he's been the best, mentor, the best big brother that, I can ask for coming into the league. I wouldn't be as far ahead of the curve as I am right now without a guy like him. And, I definitely thank him every single day, just from helping me with technique, helping me with film study and things like that.
What do you think when you watch the film and he's coming off the slot, sticking his nose in on a bunch of those running plays?
Yeah, no, he's one of the best tacklers I've seen at the nickel spot.
You know, he's in there all the time, getting his head wet and things like that. And good for him, man. It's hard to do. That's very hard to do, especially he's not the biggest guy either. So being able to go in there, that just shows you, you know, he can do it all. He can go in there and tackle if he needs to. In LA, he didn't have to tackle as much. He was able to cover a lot more, but now he has to tackle a lot, and it shows that he can do that too.
Let's welcome in Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan. Mac, the one thing that impresses me more than anything about Greg Newsome, quarterbacks are not throwing at him, and that's the sign that a rookie quarterback is doing some good things, because you're not seeing it on tape, you're not seeing weakness. If you were seeing weakness, you'd go right after it, and they're not going after Greg Newsome a whole lot.
Yeah, you raise a great point there, Dave. You know, when it comes to Greg Newsome coming in, you knew he was a smart guy coming out of Northwestern, but at the same time, you know, you expected a little bit of a learning curve from the rookie corner, but you know, haven't really seen all that much this year. Mainly, you've seen, you know, great production from him on the outside. You know, the ability to play inside and out, which Joe Woods talked up all offseason as well. But, you know, especially too with the way that he's talked up Troy Hill, you know, the way that he's been able to learn under Troy Hill, he's really been a sponge, and he's really been able to, you know, take some of that knowledge from Troy Hill, who's been a seasoned veteran to this point, and he's really been able to enact that, those teachings from him and be able to execute that on the outside for the Browns. And he looks like a seasoned veteran on the outside, let alone the fact that he hasn't even played half a season to this point.
Well, the other thing that the Browns are now dealing with, Denzel Ward didn't practice today. He's on the bike, so his availability for the Steelers is definitely in question. So the Browns have to deal with that. But the good news is that Greg Newsome able to go, and Greedy Williams, the guy who Greg Newsome beat out, you could argue he's been one of the best cornerbacks when the Browns have had to use him. Here's Joe Woods talking about dealing with Ward's injury and Greedy Williams.
I don't know. Just take it day to day and see where he's at. You know, he's out there going through the walkthrough part of practice with us, so we'll see what happens the next couple of days.
How do you feel like you guys are set? I mean, it's like, you know, Greg was out, and Denzel had to come out of the one game early with the neck.
That's, you know, for me, it's just it's the next guy up. Because if you worry about injuries, guys going down, man, you'll be sick. So it's like, I feel confident in the guys we have in the back end. So, you know, Greg, Reed will start, Troy, and then we have other guys we're preparing to play too if Denzel doesn't make it.
How kind of valuable has Greedy been because of that stuff that's happening?
He's stepped up and played well. I mean, he's made plays on the ball, created fumbles. So I'm very pleased where he's at. He's playing with a lot of confidence right now. So it's just an opportunity for him to step up for the defense.
And Mac, we talked about the depth at that position, and you definitely need it. And the Browns have needed it probably more than they would have liked to for the first 8 games of the season now.
Yeah, and you got to give credit where it's due. You know, Greedy Williams missed all of last season. He's stepped up. He's been playing, you know, the best game of it, or the best ball of his career, basically. And the biggest difference that I saw, you know, I was able to be at that Bears game especially, and seeing him get that start, and on the outside, he's a willing tackler at this point. That was the biggest criticism of him coming out of LSU, is that, you know, maybe he was a little shy when it comes to, you know, making those tackles, getting up in the box and being able to, you know, stop those plays. But he's been somebody who's had a nose for the football. He's been able to get down into the box if need be. He gets up in the face of those receivers, and he's really been doing a great job on the outside. And you know, he's been one of the higher rated cornerbacks from Pro Football Focus throughout this season. He's been a great cover corner, and, you know, he had the one interception at least. But, you know, I look at Greedy Williams, and he has really stood out. And outside of Greedy Williams, you know, they do have depth. Like you mentioned, you know, A.J. Green was somebody who, you know, he was tested a little bit, obviously had the bad pass interference call against him with the Chargers game. But, you know, he overall, as somebody who was an undrafted free agent last year, stepped up, played well on the outside as well last year. So I look at the depth that this Browns team has. Even if Denzel isn't necessarily out there, I do feel confident about the rest of that secondary that they do have, including guys like M.J. Stewart and A.J. Green, like I mentioned.
Well, the other thing that the Browns have going for them against the Steelers, offensive line, healthy. That's been a big thing Jack Conklin expects to play. So Cam Hayward from the Steelers talked about what to expect from this Browns offense.
No, I think their offensive line is very sound. Of course, Chubb is one of the best backs in the league. You put those two together, it's a match made in heaven. But they finished the Road Raiders, and they've been together for a good part of the decade. So we're gonna have our work cut out for us, but I look forward to it.
Cam, what's the difference between Baker and Keenan?
They both have quick releases. Great thing about Keenan is he's got experience at playing other places. I would say in the past 5 years we played him like 3 or 4 times. So, I think Baker obviously is a lot more mobile, but they both do a great job for him.
And Mac, you can tell the Browns' offensive line has the defensive line's attention for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big focus this week because especially, you have guys like Alex Highsmith, obviously TJ Watt. They both have been able to get after the quarterback this year. Melvin Ingram, he's been having the talks of, whether or not he wants to still be in Pittsburgh or not. Those have been the rumors going around. But at least when it comes to the Steelers, they've had a lot of great production from their edge rushers, and they're going to try to take advantage of the Browns' offensive line. But if you have Jack Conklin coming back, you have Jedrick Wills coming back, all of a sudden now you're starting to see that offensive line for the Browns finally be able to, get back and get healthy at this point, because throughout the season you've had Jedrick Wills dealing with that ankle injury, and then you had Jack Conklin the last few weeks, dealing with that knee injury. So for him to get back, get healthy, you might finally start to get to see this Browns offensive line at full strength this year finally. And I think that overall it's a welcome addition back for the Browns offense. And overall, if you're the Steelers, you have to be looking out for that Browns offensive line and one that really shut down Cam Hayward and company, in that playoff win and in that Week 17 win that they had as well. So, I do think that they really need to take advantage, the Browns need to take advantage of getting this offensive line back healthy and need to get back to the way that they were playing last season now that they are finally getting back to full health.
Mac Robinson and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we'll talk about Ben Roethlisberger as well as TJ Watt. Hear what the Browns think about shutting those two guys down. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Pittsburgh Steelers. John Johnson III talked about the challenge of going against Ben Roethlisberger.
Big Ben's a smart player, so he's going to take what you give him, and that's where you see all the underneath stuff. He has guys that can get yards after catch, but he knows his shot plays. He knows when we're in the coverage where he could take a shot outside, and that's what they do a good job of, like mostly outside shots, and he picks and chooses when he wants to do it, and he's been having success his whole career, so we definitely got to be ready for it.
And Mac Robinson, one of the things that concerns me a little bit, Chase Claypool, a big target, and you certainly don't want to let him get up in that 50-50 ball range because he can go up and get it.
Yeah, and that was the one thing, is that Claypool combines that size and speed aspect that the Browns have had some issues with so far this season. But I think that that's where having somebody like Greedy Williams on the outside could be a little bit beneficial because, again, he has a little bit more of that length to him, about like 6'1", 6'2", on the outside. So I feel like he could be somebody who could take advantage of that matchup. And I will say that, John Johnson, I think he is right when it comes to the fact that, Ben likes to stretch the field a little bit and could get down the field a little bit with Deontay Johnson as well as Claypool on the outside. However, last year you saw in that playoff game where, again, Ben will kind of get away from the running game a little bit. Obviously now with Najee Harris, you see him kind of focusing on that. But, even more so with Najee now, he's able to get a lot of those short passes. So Ben will, instead of supplementing that running game by hanging the ball off, he'll go ahead, just do a couple of dink and dunk passes out to the flat, maybe to Najee Harris, maybe to, Pat Freiermuth as well in the middle. So, I look at these guys, and I think that for the Browns, it's limiting those big plays and making sure that they're getting those smaller plays that's eating away at the clock, because I feel like the offense can still take advantage of this Steeler defense that isn't quite as good as it has been in the past. And it's not quite the steel curtain that people have talked about in the past, but I do think that they are susceptible to being taken advantage of here.
Well, the other thing that the Browns have to be aware of, T.J. Watt on the other side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball. Alex Van Pelt talked about kind of game planning and dealing with T.J. Watt.
Just like anybody else, he's an elite pass rusher. He can definitely ruin a game. He's Bosa, he's Mack, he's all those guys that can do that. So luckily we've faced those type of players before, and we've done well, I think, in our scheme and in our plan. So we continue to see that moving forward. He's a really elite player, one of the top guys in the league to rush the passer, and he plays the run really well. So definitely aware where he is at all times.
What about his skill set kind of separates him from some of the other guys?
Just the twitchiness, his ability to bend. He's quick. You try to reach him on a run block, and he can slip you really quickly inside. Just all the things he brings. Obviously he's one of the top players in the league.
Mac, how do you see this one playing out? Some of the keys as you look Browns and Steelers Sunday. First divisional game, obviously important.
And you're absolutely right there, because this will be what sets the tone for the Browns in this division especially. But, it's really going to be not necessarily neutralizing TJ Watt, because I really don't think that you're able to do that at this point, but really limiting what he's able to do this week, and really putting the focus on the rest of that defense to be able to step up and perform. Because I do feel like with Case Keenum, you saw last week there were some plays where he's able to take advantage of quick. And I do think that for the Browns, it's going to be taking care of the ball and really taking care of the ball on the ground as well. Nick Chubb looks like he could be coming back this week. I look at the way of this ground game could be taking advantage of that Steelers rushing attack. Or of that Steelers defense, excuse me. I do feel like the Browns can take advantage of that and be able to create some big plays. And if they're able to do that, I think that they're going to be able to take the ball out of Big Ben's hands and keeping that away from that Steelers offense. So at that point, it's about, taking care of the ball, not creating any turnover, or not giving the ball away, not giving the ball away at that point, giving the Steelers extra possessions, and at that point, being able to take advantage when you do have the ball with Nick Chubb and company.
Do you expect them to win? I mean, are you thinking they win this game, or how are you viewing that?
I do expect the Browns to win. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as some people expect, but I do think that the Browns are going to be able to win in a slugfest this week. I think that Nick Chubb will come back, and I think he'll look like the Nick Chubb of old. But I also do think that you will get a healthy dose of Dearness Johnson this week as well. Because, again, you saw the big plays that he was able to make, take advantage of those open holes from the offensive line. And I think that the offensive line will start to come back to shape what we expected last year. Now that you have Conklin coming back, you have Jedrick Wills getting that week of practice in this week. First time in a long time for him for that. So, again, I think that for him, and I think that for this offensive line, I think they're going to be able to take advantage. And I do think that the defense will create some takeaways.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a key. I agree with you on the defensive creating some takeaways. That's been a point of emphasis. I think this is the week that it happens. They got one against the Broncos. They were +1. Ben Roethlisberger is a guy that will make big plays, but he will also turn the ball over.
Yeah, and that's the one thing for the Browns. You have to make sure you're taking advantage of those when he does give them to you, mainly because he does have a few of those plays every single week. So I do think that they are going to be able to take advantage of that, as well as the fact that, for this offense, you have to go at this Steelers defense. I think that you can press some of these corners, and you can go ahead, take some shots early, open up that box for Nick Chubb and company. So I think that you could see a couple of big plays early. I'm not calling for the Odell big play. I'm not going to go ahead and take my shot at that point. I'm not that much of a betting man at this point, but I do think that overall you are going to see some big plays from this offense.
Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan. Mac, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
course, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guest, the D-Man, Dennis Maniloff. That is tomorrow, 4 o'clock, right here on Sports for CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.